Rebirth+Crossing+Revenge. Qin Wanyou was reborn after her death. In the previous life, Qin Wanyou, as the only person who could cultivate spiritual power in the right Prime Minister's residence, was regarded as a brother, friend, brother and sister by the parents. Sisters were affectionate, and sent the blood of spiritual power to their brothers and sisters. I thought the fiancé who cared deeply for me was my redemption. However, on the eve of their wedding, they were told the bloody truth and sought help from their fiancé, only to receive a fatal blow. They have already secretly understood the music, everything is a lie. In the end, the injured were shattered. As soon as I open my eyes, I return to the Fengyun continent and the year of Ji in this lifetime. Qin Wanyou will no longer swallow her pride in childbirth and let them take it for granted. Don't you like scumbags? Okay, here you are. Lock the scumbags and lowly women together, forever. But spiritual power, you don't deserve it. In this life, Qin Wanyou created her own power and married the regent prince, who was poisoned by goo and had only half a year left to live, leaving her free from vampires. Qin Wanyou waited for the crown prince to return to the west. He was a widow with a house, money, and power, and no one dared to propose marriage again. From then on, birds flew high in the sky, and fish leaped in the vast sea. Just waiting for freedom and freedom. However, waiting and waiting, why is this person's 6 months so long? Chapter 1. Rebirth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Miss Eyre, she doesn't seem to be. No, angry. Qin Wanyou heard a very scared and trembling voice. Then came another voice. Impossible, she can't die yet. Hurry up, go call the doctor. Go find my dad, hurry up. Then he crouched down and grabbed the shoulder of the corpse on the ground, shaking it vigorously a few times. Qin Eyre, you can't die. You can't die yet. Qin Wanyou felt a headache, so noisy, so shaking, getting increasingly dizzy. I feel like the sky is spinning around. Are you preparing to enter reincarnation and reincarnate again? The shaking stopped, leaving only noise. Qin Wanyou. Is this done? It turns out that the child's head hurt so much during the process of being reincarnated from the mother's womb. No. Not right. This sound. Eyes brushed open and shot coldly at the person in front of them. Qin. Ming. Pearl. Even if it turns into ash, I still recognize it. Qin Wanyou's conditioned reflex immediately spread out her palm to condense spiritual energy, wanting to kill Qin Mingzhu with one strike. But no matter how hard it is to condense spiritual energy, the body is becoming increasingly weak. Qin Wanyou lowered her head to look at her hand, these slender fingers, this fleshy sensation. Not right. I'm not in a solitary state anymore, I'm an adult. But why? Qin Mingzhu was so frightened by Qin Wanyou's gaze that she immediately let go of her hand and fell backwards. She sat on the ground and retreated all the way, looking at Qin Wanyou with a frightened expression on her face. At this moment, a shout came from the back corridor, Pearl, you are. As soon as Qin Mingzhu saw her father, she immediately came to her senses and said, Dad, Dad, and Qin Wanyou slowly turned her head behind Qin Mingzhu's line of sight. These voices were too familiar, and she wanted them to shut up permanently the next moment. Qin Wanyou turned her head and saw Qin Changsha. Sure enough, it's him. Anxiety attacks the heart, puff. Qin Wanyou spat out a mouthful of black blood and slowly collapsed. The last thing I heard in my ear was Qin Changsha's anxious shout, you are. Then there was a wave of chaos and chaos. Qin Wanyou regained consciousness again and lay on the bed. She heard the doctor's advice and long-awaited voices coming from the bedside. Most of the poison on Miss Eyre's body has been cleared, and it will take 5 more days to completely remove it. During this period, be careful not to let Miss Eyre use her internal and spiritual power, and not to anger her, otherwise the remaining poison will be difficult to dissipate, leaving the root of the disease and affecting her future cultivation. Understood, thank you doctor. When will the little girl wake up? Qin Xiang asked the doctor with great concern. The doctor advised, Miss Air is quite poisoned and severely injured. She needs to rest more and will wake up within 2 hours. You can prepare some food first, and pay attention to a light and warm diet. Qin Changsha asked the butler to take note and have someone prepare. Thank you, doctor. Is there anything else you need to pay attention to? At present, there is none available. Just take care of yourself regularly. I will come for a consultation in a few days. If there are no other matters, I will leave first. Thank you, doctor. Qin Changsha nodded slightly at the doctor and then waved his hand to the butler. Show the doctor the reward and send him back. The doctor quickly raised his hand and bowed in gratitude, thank you, Mr. Xiang. After the doctor and butler left, Lady Li of Qin Xiang arrived in person. Suddenly, Qin Xiang's face changed and he stared at Qin Mingzhu, questioning, what's going on? Why did Wanyou get poisoned? Qin Mingzhu answered with some fear and panic, I don't know, it wasn't my poison. I'm not telling the truth yet, Qin Xiang scolded. Although Qin Mingzhu was favored, she was still a bit afraid of the stern Qin Xiang and told the truth, Dad, I really don't know. I just prescribed some hallucinogenic and disfigured drugs, not deadly poison. Qin Xiang was really angry now, Before she could even reprimand her daughter, Mrs. Qin spoke up to defend her daughter. Alright, sir, isn't everyone okay now? It's not the poison under the pearl. What do you think the pearl is doing? She patted Qin Mingzhu's shoulder to comfort her. Taking a glance at Qin Wanyou, besides, if we raise her so much, even if. Before he could finish speaking, Qin Xiang whispered, stop talking, don't forget it's almost the end of the month. Then he gave Qin Wanyou a meaningful glance and said, hurry up and find out who poisoned you. Don't disturb yours rest. If you still want to practice spiritual skills, just give me some restraint, Qin Mingzhu warned. After speaking, he left the room first. After everyone had left the room, Qin Wanyou slowly opened her eyes and roughly understood the current situation. If I guess correctly, I am most likely reborn. Reborn back to the Fengyun continent, the right Prime Minister's mansion of the Great Yan Dynasty. Fengyun continent is said to have been a place where one can cultivate immortals, but due to the fact that our ancestors absorbed a large amount of spiritual energy during their cultivation, they continuously absorbed spiritual energy day and night, without protecting their spiritual realm. The spiritual energy was exhausted, so that later generations did not have the spiritual realm to cultivate and gradually lost their instinct to cultivate immortals. After thousands of years of evolution and transmission, there are fewer and fewer people in major families who have the talent for practicing spiritual arts. Having advanced spiritual skills, one can have several times more combat power than someone with the same level of force, and their body's various functions, self-repair ability, and learning ability are stronger than ordinary people. So major families attach great importance to cultivating people who can practice spiritual arts, hoping to cultivate better bloodlines. At present, Fengyun continent is mainly divided into 3 major countries, namely the Dian dynasty, the Jiang dynasty, and the Chuyu state. Qin Wanyou was the only person in the Qin family of the Great Yan dynasty who could cultivate spiritual skills, and her cultivation talent was not comparable to that of ordinary people. Looking back on my previous life, I was also poisoned at this time. However, when I woke up, I immediately used my spiritual technique to expel the poison. I didn't ask the doctor to see it, and it showed everyone the power of my spiritual technique, but they couldn't see the damage I had suffered. Afterwards, Madame Qin instructed the kitchen to cook a medicinal soup for herself every day, and personally served it for her to drink. At that time, I was still deeply moved by my mother's concern. It turned out that my mother also loved me. Everything that happened afterwards. Looking back now, ha ha ha, I am such a fool. Big idiot. But now that you have returned, you should wait. After 2 days of rest, Qin Wanyou regained some strength, touched something with a touch, and looked at the familiar antique room and the familiar bamboo forest outside the window, confirming the fact of her rebirth. "Miss Eyre, it's time for dinner." The maid's voice interrupted Qin Wanyou's thoughts. "Put it down, no need to wait, go out first." Qin Wanyou ordered. "I'm leaving, maidservant." The maidservant lowered her head and bowed her legs before slowly exiting the door. Qin Wanyou moved to the table and looked at the clear soup on the table. "I couldn't help but moan in my heart." The right Prime Minister's mansion of the Great Yan dynasty was envied by everyone, and Miss Qin Eyre, a renowned cultivation genius with both spiritual skills and internal power, was also the fiancée of the current crown prince. Who would have thought that she lived in the most remote courtyard of the Prime Minister's mansion, and now she eats the lightest cabbage, tofu soup, and a bowl of white rice. Qin Wanyou knew without thinking that this was Lady Qin's operation. Qin Changshi, the right chancellor of the Dian dynasty, came from an official career. Li Shufan, the wife of the Prime Minister of Qin, was the daughter of the Minister of Revenue. She gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters for the Prime Minister of Qin. Grand Prince Qin Mingyu, this year happens to be the year of week coronation. Miss Qin Mingzhu, 17 years old, second Miss Qin Wanyou and second young Master Qin Shanyu are twins of dragons and phoenixes, who have just reached their hairpin. The young Master Qin Diyu was 12 years old. On the surface, there were 2 illegitimate daughters, both of whom had already passed their youthful years. Qin Manzhu was the daughter of Aunt Fang, Qin Shuyu, the daughter of Aunt Wang. Why are there only illegitimate daughters without illegitimate sons? Of course, it is the masterpiece of Lady Qin. So everyone, can we not eat the Prime Minister's mansion into poverty? Can we not shout poverty? But the fact is exactly the opposite. The Prime Minister is very rich, quite rich. Since heaven has given me a chance to be reborn, this life will also be opposite to the previous one. Qin Mansion, please wait. Qin Wanyou treated cabbage and tofu as if they were people from the Prime Minister's mansion. Fortunately, no one has seen Qin Wanyou's expression now, otherwise her soul would have gone out of her body and reincarnated. After finishing the meal and having someone tidy up the things on the table, Qin Wanyou thought for a while about her revenge plan. "I have sorted out the recent events that will happen in my past life. As I have been diligent in practicing in my past life, many of the specific events that happened are unclear, and I can only think of some major events that happened. After thinking for a while, I felt tired. As expected, my body has lost too much blood and the injury is not mild. It seems that one can only find a way to eat something good and replenish blood on their own." Thinking about Qin Wanyou, she quickly fell asleep. Chapter 2. Causes of Death in Previous Lives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In my dream, a 18-year-old woman with rough skin and heavy makeup, with cold and bright features, sat in front of a bronze mirror, looking like a young girl with a hint of spring. The woman looked at her appearance in the mirror and couldn't help but reach out to touch her face. "Will Brother Ming find me ugly?" At this moment, Qin Mingzhu came over with a piece of clothing and said, "No, come on, put on this wedding dress we specially made for you, and you will definitely captivate Brother Ming." Qin Wanyou looked at the sky outside the window and lowered her head shyly. "It's not even time yet." At this moment, Big Brother Qin Mingyu came over and said, "Let's give it a try first to see if it fits. If there are any areas that don't fit, then take them off and make changes." Qin Wanyou looked at the bright and grand wedding dress in front of her, but it couldn't withstand the expectations in her heart. Without any defense, she stretched out her gloves and put on the wedding dress. But seeing Qin Mingzhu tightly tying her knot, she immediately grabbed Qin Mingzhu's hand and said, "Sister, you don't need to tie it so tightly. You'll have to take it off later." Qin Mingzhu turned around and broke free from Qin Wanyou's hand. She glared fiercely at Qin Wanyou and jumped out word by word, "How can I catch you if I don't tie you up tightly?" After speaking, he immediately reached out and used his martial arts skills to absorb Qin Wanyou's spiritual power with Qin Mingyu and his two younger brothers. Qin Wanyou was puzzled. What are you doing? Suddenly realizing that his spiritual power was gradually losing, he said, you guys, when did you practice the evil martial arts of absorbing spiritual power? No way. Humph, since you are usually willing to pass on spiritual power to us, let's give us your last spiritual power now. By the way, I will marry you tomorrow. Brother Ming has been waiting for me long enough. Qin Mingzhu said maliciously while absorbing spiritual power. No. Qin Wanyou struggled hard to break free from her clothes, but the more she struggled, the tighter she became as she watched them continuously absorb her spiritual power. I couldn't believe it and shouted, why? Why is this? I'm your sister, sister. My younger brother Qin Shanyu sneered and said, you're not my sister at all. To be honest with you, you and I are not twins, and you don't deserve it. You're just a wild seed stolen back by your mother and father because we discovered your spiritual power. Qin Wanyou looked at her indifferent mother standing aside in disbelief, seeking an answer. At this moment, Li urged, Shanyu, quickly absorb all the power from her body, don't waste time. Then he turned his head and said coldly to Qin Wanyou, bringing you back and raising you is already a gift to you. Now is the time for you to repay your kindness. Qin Wanyou's heart collapsed. I finally understood why I have always been disliked by my parents and still have to pass on my skills to them. But why? Why? Qin Wanyou, who was extremely angry, unleashed an unprecedented potential in her body. She used all her spiritual power and force to burst open the specially made binding net, escaped from the right Prime Minister's mansion, and flew to the Grand Prince's mansion. Brother Ming, upon arriving at the Grand Prince's mansion, Qin Wanyou saw him sitting neatly in the courtyard without rest. Feeling aggrieved, she couldn't help but want to pounce into Murong Ming's arms. Suddenly, a pang of pain came from the chest. Qin Wanyou lowered her head and saw a dagger inserted into her chest. Qin Wanyou's eyes suddenly widened and she slowly lifted her head, looking at the person in front of her incredulously. Why? And the man gave the answer, the person I love is a pearl. Look at your dull and aging appearance, coaxing you just for the spiritual power on your body. Apart from spiritual skills, you are useless. At this moment, the people from the Qin family behind have already chased after them, continuing to absorb the last spiritual power from Qin Wanyou. At this moment, Qin Wanyou truly understood, everything is a scam, everyone is a scammer. Qin Wanyou knew she couldn't escape. At this moment, hatred occupies everything, even if one's soul is shattered, they will explode and die together with them. Endless anger, fiery eyes, gathering all the strength on one's body. But to my surprise, the immortal old man of the Qin family was already prepared. At the moment of gathering, he directly dealt a heavy blow to Qin Wanyou's heavenly spirit, causing her body to instantly split apart. No, Qin Wanyou woke up from her dream and sat up instantly. My forehead and face were covered in cold sweat, and my body was already soaked through. Raise your hand and look at your complete self, as if what you just dreamt of was really just a dream. But Qin Wanyou knew that it had actually happened. Cover your face with both hands and take deep breaths. After a while, Qin Wanyou got up and changed her clothes, sitting by the window to calm her mood. In the previous life, after reaching the hairpin stage, I practiced day and night, and Li Shi replenished myself every day. Because at the beginning of each month, I have to transmit spiritual power to Qin Mingyu and Qin Mingzhu. After the Jade Age, the person who transmits spiritual power every month has been added, Qin Shanyu. Because they are all people who cannot cultivate spiritual power, even the guardian deity of the family, the ancestor of the Qin family, cannot practice spiritual skills. But they are very persistent in practicing spiritual skills. Qin's mother has been reminding her since she was young, and now you are the only person in the family who can cultivate spiritual power. The person who could have practiced spiritual arts was Wanyou, because you robbed him of his spiritual arts and nutrients while he was still in his stomach, causing him to be weak and unable to practice. Therefore, you need to transmit the spiritual power you have cultivated back to him. In addition, brothers and sisters should love each other, so they should also send spiritual power to brothers and sisters, so that everyone will protect you and the family from bullying in the future. So Qin Wanyou's childhood education was to seriously cultivate spiritual power, internal strength, and martial arts, and then pass on spiritual power to her brothers, sisters, and younger brothers after reaching the hairpin stage, so that everyone can use spiritual power, release blood for them to drink, change their physique, and cultivate spiritual power. It was passed down until the age of 18, before getting married, and finally revealed its true face. What's even more despicable is that after their own death, they even found someone to suppress their souls and did not allow reincarnation. In the end, they sacrificed everything to let one of their souls escape, and by chance, they fled to another world, becoming a solitary soul wandering in another world. I didn't expect to be reborn now. Qin Wanyou looked at the waning moon in the sky and calculated that there were only a few days left until the day of transmitting spiritual power next month. In my past life, due to the grace of giving birth and nurturing, I swallowed my pride and allowed them to suck blood. But in this life, from now on, you never want to have any spiritual power on me. Qin Wanyou raised her hand and used her spiritual power, emitting a small white halo on her palm. What should I do now that my strength is not even a match for the old monster of the Qin family? Abandoned, definitely not, I still have only one dead end. After thinking for a long time, suddenly, a spiritual light flashed, by the way. Hidden spirit grass. The hidden spirit grass of the regent's mansion. It can be said that the people of the Dian dynasty had the strongest talent for spiritual cultivation and the highest spiritual skills. They belonged to the regent king of that year. However, due to the weak influence of their mother tribe, they obtained a hidden spiritual grass from somewhere to save their lives. After consuming it, they hid their spiritual power and spiritual cultivation talents. Until the death of the late emperor, he was appointed as the regent of Dian to assist the young emperor, which caused dissatisfaction among the people. The regent only revealed his spiritual power to the public and intimidated the dissatisfied courtiers. This is what I accidentally heard when I went to the palace in my previous life because I was bored and didn't want to compromise with those people. I hid in a quiet place. But this hidden spirit grass only has half a year's effect when taken once. I don't know how many hidden spirit grass there are in the regent's mansion. Can you steal a few? Take action as soon as you think. Qin Wanyou immediately changed into black clothes and flew out of the right prime minister's mansion. The entire right prime minister's mansion was silent, and no one knew that Qin Wanyou had left the right prime minister's mansion. Qin Mingzhu, who has been paying attention to Qin Wanyou, has been sleeping poorly for the past 2 nights since leaving Qin Wanyou's yard. Whenever she falls asleep, she always dreams of the hatred in Qin Wanyou's eyes that day, as if she is about to turn herself into ashes. I woke up from my dream again this afternoon and told my personal maid Xiaocui. After hearing this, Xiaocui comforted Qin Mingzhu and said, "Miss, it must be because Miss Air drank tea containing hallucinogenic drugs that she thought you were some terrible person and had such a look in her eyes. Miss, please rest assured that Miss Air wouldn't treat you like this." After listening to Xiaocui's words, Qin Mingzhu finally calmed down and rested early tonight. Others wouldn't worry about Qin Wanyou discovering anything. Qin Wanyou arrived at the regent's mansion. The royal mansion is heavily guarded. Qin Wanyou wandered around outside before finding an opportunity to sneak into the royal mansion, now nestled in a lush tree. Suddenly thought of, I don't seem to know what the hidden spirit grass looks like yet. There are so many flowers and plants in the Wang mansion, I don't know which one is. Finally, Qin Wanyou decided to investigate the layout of the regent's mansion and wait for the appearance of the hidden spirit grass before returning. When I went back, I was thinking about how to check the appearance of the hidden spirit grass when suddenly I heard a cry for help coming from below. Chapter 3. Lu Seer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I didn't want to pay attention to it at first, but I accidentally glanced and saw a somewhat familiar person. Doctor, please open the door, save my mother, please open the door, please. A little girl kept patting the door of a medical clinic, leaning against a pillar behind her with her eyes closed. With a creak, the door of the medical clinic opened. Extending a head from inside, he let out a very angry tone and said, "What is it called in the middle of the night?" The little girl saw the door open and immediately stepped forward with a very anxious tone. As she listened, she was about to cry, "Doctor, please help my mother. My mother is about to die." The little boy who opened the door saw that it was a little girl who had intended to drive away, but heard her say to save her mother. Seeing that there was indeed a seriously ill woman behind her, she couldn't help but think of her own mother and said, "You wait." After speaking, he put his head in and slammed the door shut. The little girl wanted to knock on the door, but when she realized what the child was saying, she immediately stopped and hurriedly walked back and forth at the door. After walking for a while, he walked down the steps and supported the lady. Mom, you have to hold on. The doctor will be here soon." In a moment, the door creaked open again, and the doctor and the child walked out from inside. The little girl saw the doctor and her eyes were filled with longing. "Doctor, please help me take a look at my mother." The doctor comforted the little girl and said, don't be impatient, after speaking, step forward to check the pulse for the lady." After finishing the pulse, the doctor's face turned stern and he sighed, "Little girl, your mother's illness and injuries are very serious, and I am powerless to do anything about it." The little girl burst into tears and said, "No, doctor, you can do it. Please help my mother, doctor. I will repay you as a cow and a horse in the future." The doctor was also very embarrassed. "Little girl, it's not that I didn't save you, but your mother's injury is too serious. Even if we can wake up your mother, we can only hold on for a while, not for long." The little girl cried very sadly. "Doctor, please make my mother wake up and let my mother take a closer look at the world and her beloved daughter." The doctor looked at the little girl and carefully spoke, "Little girl, your mother's illness has invaded her heart and lungs, and she has been hit in the abdomen and back. Her chest bones have broken, and there is blood accumulation in her body. To save her, ordinary medicine cannot reach it, and I also need to borrow a silver needle. This silver needle may not be able to be borrowed based on my wealth." The little girl was stunned and immediately took out all the valuable things, money, and hairpins from her body. "Doctor, please, I only have so much left," she said. The doctor shook his head and said, "Miss," the little girl knelt down and kowtowed incessantly, "Doctor, please, I will definitely repay you in the future, as you please." The doctor looked very embarrassed and said, "Miss, I am also sigh." The doctor let out a heavy sigh. At this moment, Qin Wanyou took out an ingot of gold and handed it to the doctor. "Is that enough?" The doctor, the little girl, and the little child were startled. How did this person come out? But when she saw the gold, the little girl looked at the doctor with hopeful eyes. The doctor looked at the gold and shook his head. "We need 2 more ingots of this kind of gold," he said. The little girl's eyes suddenly became disillusioned again. "Plus, I may not even be able to earn so much gold in my next life." Qin Wanyou took out 2 ingots of gold and handed them to the doctor. "Let's treat her." The little girl immediately kowtowed to Qin Wanyou and said, Thank you. From now on, if you want Seer to go east, never west, you can let Seer die. We'll talk about the future. Let's treat your mother first." Then Qin Wanyou looked at the doctor and said, "I want to inquire about something with the doctor later. Don't worry, it's about medication, not anything harmful." The doctor asked the little boy and the little girl to carry people into the room, and invited Qin Wanyou to come in together. After entering the room, the doctor instructed the little boy to prepare medicine and let the little girl take care of her mother, so she went to fetch the medicine herself. Only Qin Wanyou was fine for the time being. After the little girl had arranged for her mother, she knelt down and kowtowed to Qin Wanyou, thank you for your great kindness. Seer will never forget it. If there is anything in the future, please instruct Seer. Seer will not hesitate to do everything. Qin Wanyou gave the little girl a bag of silver and whispered, tomorrow, go to Yuling Fong on Luan Street in the west of the city and use your name to buy the 2 adjacent courtyards of different sizes next to Li Mansion. You and your mother can go to the small courtyard to live in first, and the large courtyard will be empty for now. Later, I will find you. The little girl kowtowed to Qin Wanyou again, I will definitely do it, thank you, girl. Qin Wanyou did not disclose her information, and the little girl did not ask much. Afterwards, Qin Wanyou looked around the clinic, but before she could finish, the doctor came in with a silver needle. After giving the lady a needle, the doctor wiped his sweat and said, after the medicine is cooked, I will take it for your mother. Tomorrow, I will borrow a silver needle to give your mother another injection before she can wake up. During this period, please take good care of your mother. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. Seer thanked the doctor again. The doctor waved his hand and then looked at Qin Wanyou, what do you want to ask me, Mississippi? Qin Wanyou didn't beat around the bush either. Doctor, I want to ask what the hidden spirit grass looks like. Do you have any designs? The doctor's heart skipped a beat and he said, Miss, the hidden spirit grass is an unusual object that I have never seen before, I have only seen it in books. Do you remember the description of the hidden spirit grass, doctor? Finally, the doctor truthfully informed Qin Wanyou of the appearance of the ghost grass. Seeing that it was already 5 o'clock in the morning, Qin Wanyou didn't stay much. After knowing what she wanted to know, she immediately left the clinic and rushed back to the right Prime Minister's mansion. The next evening, Qin Wanyou arrived at the yard that Seer had bought. But, I saw Seer, dressed in filial piety clothes, kneeling in the corner of the yard crying while holding an urn. She didn't put the urn inside, but cried outside in the yard. Seer saw Qin Wanyou's figure and couldn't help but cry, Miss, I'm sorry, but I didn't take my mother. Before she could finish speaking, Qin Wanyou interrupted, let's set up a memorial hall for your mother inside. Miss, this is a newly bought house. Seer couldn't believe Qin Wanyou had said such a thing. Qin Wanyou explained, isn't a house just for people to live in? Whether it's a living person or a dead person, they're all humans. Thank you miss, thank you miss. Seer kept kowtowing to Qin Wanyou. Then Seer moved her mother's ashes into the room, hung a white flag, and set up a simple mourning hall. Qin Wanyou put down a bundle and gave a few admonitions before returning to the right Prime Minister's mansion to recuperate. Because I don't know if I can successfully steal the hidden spirit grass tomorrow night, I must keep my spirits up. The Regent's mansion is also busy arranging personnel to take protective measures on the inner and outer floors. Crown Prince, it has been arranged, and this time they will definitely have no return. Mo Dong, the head of the 4 major guards of the Regent's mansion today, reported to the figure in front of him, who stood like a orchid in jade tree, cold and elegant. This figure, as if returning from the wind, slowly turned around. The clear and handsome white face, originally a pair of sharp Ruefeng eyes, could only see through the indifference of life and death. Under the tall and straight nose, the thin lips lightly lifted, thank you for your hard work. This is what my subordinates should do. Go and rest well first, tomorrow night will be a fierce battle. Yes, Crown Prince, I retire. The room fell into silence. Wang Mama looked at the strong child with heartache and said, Little master, you've been watching all day and it's getting late. Go to bed and rest earlier. You need to rest well. I'm fine, Grandma. You should go back and rest earlier, too. Murong Zhao's calm tone mixed with a hint of numbness. I can have several days of sleep starting tomorrow night, and now I want to watch more. Wang Mama withdrew from the study, holding back her tears. The room fell silent again. Murong Zhao looked out the window at the sky, the waning moon gradually faded into the clouds, disappearing into darkness. Chapter 4. Transactions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Black moon, high wind, high night. After Qin Wanyou knocked out the maid, she flew directly to the courtyard in the west of the city, changed her equipment, and headed straight to the regent's mansion. As I approached the regent's mansion, I saw the scene in front of me. Qin Wanyou was bewildered, my eyes were filled with confusion and shock. What was the matter with these swords and shadows? Has the regent's mansion been attacked? Qin Wanyou watched for a while as both sides fought fiercely. Isn't this a divine opportunity? Then Qin Wanyou cautiously sneaked into the regent's mansion from a sparsely populated area. This seems to be the backyard of the regent's mansion, and now the main personnel are resisting in the front yard. Occasionally, one or two female relatives are seen nervously walking around. Qin Wanyou secretly observed around. After checking for a while, I didn't see any flowers or plants similar to the hidden spirit grass. Then Qin Wanyou dodged and hid in a corner of the eaves, bowing her head to ponder. Where would they put the hidden spirit grass? Looking at another remote courtyard, Qin Wanyou still couldn't find any plants related to the hidden spirit grass. She gradually explored further. Would it be possible to see a heavily guarded attic in front of you? The sound of fighting in the front yard grew louder and louder, and Qin Wanyou pondered whether to go ahead and investigate. On the attic of the main courtyard, Murong Xiao lay on a recliner, watching the fierce fighting not far from outside. The guards around were also on high alert, looking around with caution and not daring to slack off at all. Suddenly, Murong Xiao's gaze turned towards a certain direction below. Guardians Mo Nan and Mo Bei immediately followed the master's gaze and looked at the sneaky black figure, immediately alerting them, prepare, let the archer take action at any time. But Murong Xiao raised his hand to stop it, and looked at Qin Wanyou as he examined the potted plants and plants in the yard one by one. Guess what he's looking for? I guess it's a little thief, Mo Bei guessed. Murong Xiao did not agree in his heart, but did not refute or explain. Instead, he stood up by the window and looked ahead at the waves of sneak attacks, screamed and fell. Suddenly, Mo Nan exclaimed in surprise, Master, that little thief is missing. Mo Bei immediately instructed the guards, everyone, be vigilant and ready for battle at any time. Archers, prepare. Murong Xiao looked at the sky, the crescent moon had completely fallen into the clouds, and there was no light in sight. The sky was dark, which also indicated that he was about to fall into a dark sleep. Qin Wanyou explored the flowers and plants here, and as she looked at them, she suddenly felt a chill behind her. She immediately found a hidden place to hide herself, pondered for a moment, and felt that tonight's opportunity was rare, so she decided to cat up to the attic. Unexpectedly, as soon as I entered the attic, I looked up and saw that the archer had already filled his bow. I quickly dodged towards the large flower pot on the side pillar. It's so close, almost 1,000 arrows pierced through my heart. Qin Wanyou realized that she had become a rabbit delivering to her door this time. But I'm not willing to leave like this. Tomorrow is the time for the doctor to come for a check-up, and I must get the hidden spirit grass tonight. I picked up an unknown object casually and threw it over, then threw another frame. With one move, Qin Wanyou flew over the archer and flew straight upstairs. The guards drew their swords and guarded tightly. Qin Wanyou kept resisting and avoiding all the way, gradually approaching Murong Xiao's room. Qin Wanyou looked at the absence of anything similar to hidden spirit grass upstairs, and was preparing to force the guards to fly away to the window. The door to the room suddenly opened at this moment, and Mo Nan's sword pointed directly at Qin Wanyou. Qin Wanyou had to snatch the guard's sword again to resist. Two people, you stab me to block, you come and go, attacking and blocking each other. After a few moves, Qin Wanyou forced Mo Nan back with a sword, stepping on a pillar behind him like a swallow flying in the air. Murong Xiao looked at Qin Wanyou, who was only resisting and did not place an assassin. Unlike those who came to assassinate and attack earlier, he spoke up to stop him and said, Stop, I don't know why your excellency came. Qin Wanyou changed her tone and let out an old and hoarse voice, I'm sorry to disturb the crown prince, this seat. Before he could finish speaking, he saw that Murong Zhao's face was faintly black, constantly circling around. Then I couldn't help but grab my chest with my left hand, showing pain on my face. Mo Nan and Mo Bei immediately guarded Murong Zhao's side, and the guards closely watched Qin Wanyou, gripping the sword in their hands and preparing for it. Qin Wanyou changed her mind at this moment and said, Crown Prince, how about we make a deal with you? Murong Zhao endured the heartbreaking pain and said, what deal? Qin Wanyou slowly spoke up, the prince's poison is about to invade his heart and lungs. If left untreated, he may be in danger of his life. I will help the prince suppress the mangu insect. Can you give me a few hidden spirit herbs? After pausing for a few seconds, this transaction is very cost-effective for you. Murong Zhao was surprised to find the hidden spirit grass. However, if you want the hidden spirit grass, I agree to trade with you. We need to see the hidden spirit grass first. Qin Wanyou was worried about being deceived. Murong Zhao remained silent for a moment and said, okay, I promise you. Mo Nan and Mo Bei were also worried about playing tricks and disagreed, Crown Prince, if he. Murong Zhao raised his hand to stop Mo Nan and Mo Bei, knowing their intentions. I believe your excellency is not deceiving me, he said. Qin Wanyou spoke up, never break your promise, as long as the Crown Prince gives you the hidden spirit grass. Murong Zhao nodded and said, follow me. Everyone flew downstairs and arrived at a courtyard behind the attic, surrounded by rockeries. The guards were guarding outside, and Murong Zhao and his companions entered the courtyard and came to a rockery. At this moment, the people downstairs saw the Crown Prince leave the attic and rushed over one after another. After Wang Mama and Luo Shini arrived, they saw this situation and looked up at Mo Nan. Mo Nan explained to the two in a low voice. Murong Zhao asked Mo Bei to move a stone and prepare to reach out to open the formation eye. Grandma Wang shouted, Little Master. She wanted to stop, but still didn't say anything later. Murong Zhao heard a pause for a second and continued to open his formation eyes. Murong Zhao used his spiritual power to attach his hand to the air at the exit of the rockery. Slowly, a scene of a unique cave appeared before my eyes. Several potted plants were placed inside, with flowers and grass, and there was also a plant in the middle that was directly planted in the ground, not in a pot. Qin Wanyou looked at the plant in the middle. It was exactly the same as the doctor said. The lines were very clear. Each leaf had a light purple line on the side facing up, and the back was purple. But it seems like there is only one hidden spirit grass. Murong Zhao looked at Qin Wanyou and said, this is the hidden spirit grass. To be honest, currently there is only one plant that can be used in the Wang mansion. Its growth cycle is very slow and it is not easy to survive. If the root leaves the ground for more than a moment, it will die quickly. Qin Wanyou considered the possibility of taking it away to support her, which was almost zero. So, since that's the case, I'll just exchange 2 leaves. At this moment, Mo Nan spoke up and said, you need to heal our crown prince first before we can give you treatment. I need to get it first, Qin Wanyou insisted. Murong Zhao directly picked 2 leaves and handed them to Qin Wanyou. The subordinates unanimously spoke up and stopped prefabricating, Crown Prince, it's not possible. But Qin Wanyou quickly took action and directly used her spiritual power to hold the hidden spirit grass in her hand. Upon closer inspection, she was still worried about any fraud. Murong Zhao explained to Qin Wanyou, this is the real hidden spirit grass. I didn't deceive your excellency. After Qin Wanyou put it away, thank you to the Crown Prince, please sit down and be quiet. Murong Zhao meditated on the ground as instructed. Qin Wanyou pressed her palms and fingers against the base of her middle finger, stimulating her spiritual power. She flipped her chest up and down to form a lotus shape, then her palms faced each other and slowly opened. Her right hand slowly thrust the spiritual power into Murong Zhao's body, intending to force the insect to his left wrist to suppress the seal. The fighting outside became increasingly intense, and the shouting grew louder. Suddenly, a few sounds of bang 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 bang, the attic exploded directly. Suddenly, a burst of flames surged into the sky. And Qin Wanyou never expected this goo to be so powerful. As soon as it reached her arm, she heard a sound and stopped moving. You use your internal strength to force out another kind of poison on your body. The hoarse voice was a bit younger. Qin Wanyou once again increased her spiritual power. But the goo insect is too powerful, and blood has already oozed from the corners of its mouth. Hurry up and use your spiritual power to hit the crown prince's left shoulder. I can't hold it anymore, Qin Wanyou said directly. Mo Nan and Mo Bei immediately followed suit. With the blessing of two spiritual powers, Qin Wanyou finally calmed down for a moment. The goo insect was gradually forced to the wrist, and Qin Wanyou immediately sealed it with spiritual power. Then, she folded her right hand and slapped Murong Zhao on the back with her left hand. She also took a step back and fell to the ground, but immediately turned around and flew towards the roof. Murong Zhao spat out a mouthful of black blood. Crown Prince, my subordinates drew their swords one after another. Chapter 5. Kill. No. Amnesty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Murong Zhao quickly looked up and reached out to stop. Put them all down, thank you, Your Excellency. Qin Wanyou breathed a sigh of relief. Still considered a person, no need, it's just a matter of taking what you need, but your goo poison is too powerful, it can only be suppressed for about half a year. After speaking, a few people jumped up and disappeared without a trace. After completing the pulse for the Crown Prince, Dr. Luo looked shocked and said, really suppressed it. Crown Prince, your heart-eroding poison has also forced out most of it. Murong Zhao felt his body was unprecedentedly relaxed, that's right. At this moment, a pair of auspicious phoenix eyes is no longer calm without waves, but rather scattered with starlight. I will immediately find medicine for you to prepare a medicinal bath to remove residual toxins and regulate your body. Dr. Luo was excited and turned around before leaving. Don't worry, Luo Lao. What needs to be dealt with urgently now are those ambitious, ruthless, and ruthless people who have been exterminated. Murong Zhao stood in front of the rockery, watching the direction of the fighting, burning, and shouting in the front yard. The firelight reflected on the cold, sculpted, flawless face, and the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth highlighted the incredibly seductive beauty of this domineering face. And the divine doctor left a silhouette in a sentence, you go deal with yours, I'll prepare mine. Wang Mama was also worried about the Crown Prince's health. Crown Prince, we can go out and deal with it. You can rest first. Murong Zhao still looked in the direction of the flames and said, no, Grandma, I'm fine now. Can you help me take care of the rear here? Then he shouted to Mo Nan and Mo Bei, Mo Nan, Mo Bei. Follow me out. The rest of you guard the rear, and no suspicious person will be let go. Yes, Crown Prince, everyone responded in unison. In the front courtyard of the regent's mansion, Mo Dong and Mo Shi led the guards of the regent's mansion to resist the attack desperately. Everyone's face showed a resolute expression, without any fear, and they fought hard to kill every attacker. Suddenly, a big fire broke out in the direction of the attic, and with a loud bang, it collapsed. Gu Xiyuan looked at the direction of the attic and shouted heartily, no uncle, with a swish, a sword was struck on the arm. Crown Prince Mo Dong killed the attacker, young Master Gu. Gu Xiyuan resisted while shouting, uncle. Mo Dong whispered to Gu Xiyuan, young Master Gu, the Crown Prince will definitely be fine. But Gu Xiyuan couldn't hear and rushed towards the attic, killing the person in front of him. The generals from Washi's side in the royal mansion were also fighting back in anger, wielding swords and chopping like a melon, chopping left and right, chopping forward, with blood flowing into a river and corpses scattered throughout the courtyard, creating a mess. But there were also continuous sneak attacks afterwards, and the guards of the royal family saw a constant stream of enemies, and at this moment, they felt a hint of fear in their hearts. Suddenly, 3 people flew out of the flames. Everyone looked at it. Isn't the person in the middle the crown prince of their beautiful moon? Upon seeing this, Gu Siyuan couldn't help but blurt out, "Uncle, they are shining again." Ma Shi looked excitedly at Murong Xiao and said, "No, this is a rebirth from the ashes." The commander of the attack was even more frightened when he saw such a Murong Xiao and said, "Kill Murong Xiao." Murong Xiao, standing in front of the crowd, glared at the nearby commander and coldly spat out, "Those who attacked the royal palace, kill. None. Amnesty." After speaking, the sword in his hand moved as if it were a combination of human and sword, instantly piercing the commander on the roof. "Kill." Mo Nan and Mo Bei also shouted together, wielding swords to stab the enemy. Next came another bloody storm. After circling around and confirming that there were no pursuers, Qin Wanyou arrived at the courtyard of Yuling Fong in the west of the city. As soon as I entered the door, I couldn't help but fall onto a chair. Seer, who was still burning paper money, saw Qin Wanyou, who was covered in a tight cover, about to exclaim in surprise, "It's me." Qin Wanyou spoke out to stop. Seer swallowed the unexpressed exclamation, "Miss, what's wrong with you?" Qin Wanyou took a breath, took off her mask, took off her black robe, and threw it directly into the brazier. "Hurry up and let the fire burn directly," she said. Seer immediately followed suit, and the flames also reflected on Qin Wanyou's face, creating a stunning and exquisite appearance. This is the first time Seer has seen Qin Wanyou's face, with a pair of big and beautiful peach blossom eyes and a delicate face, so beautiful. But now I have no heart to admire. I saw the bloodstains on the corner of Qin Wanyou's mouth and said, "Miss, are you injured? Do you want to hire a doctor?" Qin Wanyou raised her hand to signal not to use it, took out the hidden spirit grass, and said, "Boil me a small pot of water, put this in it to soak in water, pay attention to it." Seer took the hidden spirit grass and said, "Yes, miss, please wait. It will be ready soon." After Qin Wanyou changed her clothes, she went to the Lingtang to regulate her breath. After a moment, Seer came in holding a bowl and a pot of steaming hot water. "Miss, it's cooked," she said, then placed the bowl on the table and pour water into it. "It's very hot, wait until it cools down for a while before drinking." After Seer fell ill, she stood aside, still worried about Qin Wanyou's injury. "Miss, really don't you need to hire a doctor?" Qin Wanyou shook her head and said, "No need, I can see the doctor tomorrow." Then he looked at Seer and said, "Your name is Seer?" Seer lowered her head and replied, "Yes, my surname is Liu, and my name is Seer. This is the name my step-grandmother took because she is fourth in the family." Qin Wanyou reached out to touch the bowl, but it was still very hot. "Didn't your parents give you another formal and nice name?" Seer shook her head and said, "My little father doesn't know a few big characters. My mother thought about changing her name, but because my grandmother was in charge at the time, she didn't agree. My father also believed in my grandmother because she was a literate person." Qin Wanyou pondered for a moment and said, "What are your plans for the future?" Seer seems to have thought for a long time, "I'll take my mother back to my hometown and bury her." Instead, he stared at the ground with a sinister gaze, then seek revenge on that group of ungrateful thieves. After finishing speaking, she looked up at Qin Wanyou with tears in her eyes and gratitude. "Mrs. Great Kindness is so great that I can only repay it by being a cow or a horse in the next life." "Can you beat them?" Qin Wanyou asked again. Seer said firmly, "Even if you can't fight, you must fight. I must avenge my mother and father." "Stupid." Qin Wanyou coldly uttered 2 words. Seer looked at Qin Wanyou in surprise and froze. "Little sister. I knew I wouldn't be able to fight and still had to die. Are you worried that your mother would be too lonely on the road?" Or do you want your mother to die without closing her eyes? What should your mother have said to you in the end? Do you really want your mother to not rest in peace after she dies? Qin Wanyou sneered mercilessly. Seer cried sadly, but my mother died so tragically. She was severely injured by them and died. If I can't avenge them, I will never live a peaceful life. Qin Wanyou looked outside, not knowing what she was looking at. Who said we can't avenge them? It's just that we can't do it now, but it doesn't mean we can't do it in the future. What we need to do now is to work hard to strengthen ourselves, learn our skills, and when the time is right, we can catch them all in one go. Miss Seer looked at Miss in surprise. If you go to seek revenge now, not only will you not be able to do so, but you may also be insulted and die, making your enemies laugh even more happily. After death, your mother may not even recognize you. Qin Wanyou took a sip of water and said, so, what we need to do now is to strengthen ourselves. We are still young, and we have enough time to endure them to death. However, as long as we work hard, we believe that the day of successful revenge will not be far away. Can you really succeed in seeking revenge? Seer looked at Qin Wanyou as if seeking confirmation. Are you willing to follow me? Qin Wanyou asked Seer seriously. Yes, I am willing. Fourth son immediately kowtowed to Qin Wanyou. Qin Wanyou looked at Seer without a trace of expression and said, I also promised you in advance to stay by my side and not allow betrayal. Once betrayed, you cannot bear the consequences. You need to think carefully. Seer swears to heaven that he will never betray Mississippi. If there is betrayal, he will not die easily. Being by my side can also be very dangerous, and you may even break into pieces with no bones left. You have planned it well, Qin Wanyou reminded again. I am not afraid and willing to follow the young lady without any regrets. Please take me in. Okay, the conversation changed again. Don't worry, even if we fail in the end, I will avenge your parents before dying. However, I hope you will avenge your parents yourself and personally attack the enemy. Miss Seer looked at Qin Wanyou excitedly. Alright, it's getting late and I need to leave as soon as possible. Also, if you don't call me Seer in the future, remember, your name is Fengling. Give you 3 days to handle your mother's affairs and wait for me here. If you can't wait, go to the restaurant outside the west backyard of the right Prime Minister's mansion. If you see 3 bamboo sticks shaking together, then touch the master bedroom in the backyard to find me at midnight. Don't enter the right Prime Minister's mansion during the day. Fengling thanks Miss, please remember Miss's instructions. Remember, never act recklessly and protect yourself. After speaking, Qin Wanyou finished drinking water and flew away directly. Chapter 6. Tracking Gu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. And the regent's mansion, after fierce battles and countless casualties, the enemy was completely annihilated in the end. At this time, the royal family is dealing with the post-war situation. Gu Siyuan bandaged the wound on his hand and walked up to Murong Xiao, who was taking a medicinal bath. So, little uncle, you haven't been burned to death. Pooh, 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 you crow mouth, why do you shine back? You're the only one who shines back. Dr. Luo, disgusted, waved away Gu Siyuan and stepped forward to pulse Murong Xiao. After finishing his pulse, he nodded and said, it's okay, it hasn't worsened, but I need to give you another medicine. Gu Siyuan is now like a monk in his 2nd year, puzzled. What are you talking about? Oh, by the way, little uncle, your Gu poison hasn't broken out. It's already time, you're not sleeping. Did the Gu insect fall asleep inside your body? Outside the screen, Moshi also realized that it was time for him to fall asleep, but judging from the Crown Prince's condition, it didn't seem like a situation where Gu and poison had erupted. Finally, Mo Bei explained to everyone the reason for not having an attack. So, my uncle's poison can only be suppressed for half a year, so why don't you keep that thief? Or you can ask his name, and it's easy to find him later. Gu Siyuan looked at Mo Nan and Mo Bei. Mo Nan and Mo Bei touched the back of their heads and said, "We didn't realize at the time that he slapped the crown prince. When we saw the crown prince vomiting blood, we all cared about him and didn't notice that the masked man had escaped. It's not difficult to find that girl. The old slave placed a tracking goo on her, and our people can roughly locate her location by following the reaction of the goo in the old slave's hand, guessing who she is." Wang Mama took out a box. Gu Siyuan immediately looked at the goo in his grandmother's hand in surprise and said, "What do you think of this?" Grandma Wang opened the box and prepared to explain to everyone, taking a look at the goo insect. Feeling confused, how could it be? Why? Died so quickly. What? Dead. Gu Siyuan rushed forward and anxiously grabbed the grandmother's hand, asking. The nanny nodded and said, "That girl is really a formidable figure." "How old is that girl? What do her eyes look like?" Gu Siyuan continued to ask. Grandma Wang shook her head and said, "Her whole body is covered tightly, and she is still wearing a mask, so there is no visible feature of her appearance." "How do you know she's a girl?" "Judging from her voice, she should not be over 16 years old." Without any information about appearance, it would be difficult to find, Gu Siyuan muttered to himself. Murong Xiao heard a voice from behind, "Since the other party doesn't want to reveal their identity, don't speculate. Hurry up and go back and rest. After a tiring night tonight, rest well. There is still a play to sing tomorrow. Not to mention it's okay, when it comes to being tired, everyone feels like they're really a bit tired." Then everyone went down to rest, except for Wang Mama who seemed to have something to say outside. After hesitating for a few times, Murong Xiao finally spoke up and said, "Mama, if you have anything you want to say, just speak up." Wang Mama saw that the crown prince was already aware of it and said directly, "Little master, the goo poison has been temporarily controlled. The old servant wants to return to Chu Yu as soon as possible and hopes to find a way to relieve the goo poison as soon as possible. If it weren't for the need to use goo to detoxify and reduce pain for the young master at the beginning of each month, I would have long wanted to go back to Chu Yu to find a way to detoxify goo. Mammy, go back and rest well first. Let's talk about it tomorrow." "Yes, young master." In the end, the mother still listened to the crown prince. The room quieted down. Murong Xiao looked at the mother goo insect sealed on his wrist, clenched his fist, and had an impulse to directly strike to remove the goo insect from his body. However, this completely disabled his hand, and the goo insect could not be cleared, with insect eggs still inside his body. Half a year is enough to arrange for oneself to deal with that old witch and avenge my father and mother. At this time, there were also constant sounds of porcelain smashing in the inner courtyard of the palace. It seems that many palaces will need to replace with a new batch of porcelain tomorrow. On the second day, due to the attack on the regent's mansion last night, the crown prince was seriously injured and unconscious in the court, causing a great uproar. The courtiers condemned the ruthlessness of the mastermind behind the scenes, as well as the loss of conscience and the inevitable punishment from heaven. The emperor was furious and cursed everyone, ordering the Ministry of Justice to thoroughly investigate the matter, otherwise the black hat on his head would not need to be worn. Then another pile of precious medicinal herbs kept being sent to the regent's mansion. Of course, Qin Wanyou was unaware of these things. At this moment, she was sleeping soundly. Because in recent days, she has been operating at night and resting during the day, and no one from the Prime Minister's mansion has come to see her as a patient. It wasn't until Qin Xiangxia returned to the court and saw the doctor come to his door that he remembered today was the time to give Qin Wanyou a follow-up visit, so he and the doctor came together to see Qin Wanyou's situation. At this moment, Qin Wanyou had just woken up and was tidying up before eating. The maid Zhaoping saw Xiangya and the doctor coming this way from a distance outside, so she stopped being lazy and immediately came in to inform Qin Wanyou, "Miss Eyre, the master and the doctor are coming this way." Qin Wanyou didn't lift her head either. I understand, you go and greet Xiangye. Then he turned pale again. When the sound was about to arrive, I got up and walked to the table in the courtyard living room, where I sat down and poured a glass of water. Just as he took a sip, Qin Xiang, the doctor, and the butler stepped into the courtyard. After waiting for someone to approach, Qin Wanyou, dressed in white, stood up and bowed slightly, shouting, "Father." The tone was as cold as before, but now the voice is weak and powerless, making people feel like they are pretending to be strong, and I still pity their appearance. The doctor also bowed to Qin Wanyou and bowed with both hands, "Miss Qin." Qin Wanyou nodded to the doctor and said, "Thank you, doctor." Qin Xiang looked at Qin Wanyou, who was so haggard, and was surprised in his heart. "Why are you so weak? Doctor, come and see what's going on." The doctor immediately stepped forward to check Qin Wanyou's pulse. Upon touching the pulse, the doctor's face slightly changed, and he felt strange in his heart. It should be said that the poison had been relieved. Why shouldn't it be? Further exploration, after exploring for a while, the doctor finally understood and asked Qin Wanyou, "Miss Eyre hasn't had breakfast yet." Qin Wanyou nodded and said, "I've been feeling drowsy and fatigued all over these days. I slept a little longer in the morning and missed breakfast time when I woke up. The pantry hasn't prepared anything yet, so I'll wait for lunch time before eating." The doctor shook his head disapprovingly and said, "Miss Eyre, you need to eat well in the morning, otherwise where does the energy come from for the day? Remember to eat well in the morning, have a full lunch, and eat less in the evening. However, your body needs to be replenished now, and 3 meals a day are indispensable." Qin Xiang immediately asked the maid, "How do you do things? Why didn't you leave breakfast for Miss Eyre?" Xiao Ping and the maids immediately knelt down and said, "Master, calm down. Miss Eyre has been up late these days, and the maids have gone to the kitchen to bring breakfast for Mississippi. However, Aunt Lee from the kitchen said that breakfast has already been finished and there is nothing left. Let's go and pick it up during lunch time." Qin Xiang was furious and said, "How could that be so unreasonable? Our young lady from the Prime Minister's mansion hasn't had breakfast yet, and it depends on your schedule. Butler, go ask Aunt Lee to leave later and warn the kitchen staff that the Prime Minister's mansion invites people to do things, not to be the masters." The butler is busy responding. Then Qin Xiang asked the doctor Qin Wanyou about his situation, and the doctor was also straightforward. "I wonder how Miss Eyre's diet has been these days," he said. Qin Wanyou also answered truthfully, "These days are all light meals, such as soup with cabbage and tofu. Nothing else." "Like meat?" the doctor asked again. Qin Wanyou shook her head. If the chickens, fish, and other things that Qin Wanyou has been eating these days are conscious, they will definitely shout. "Am I being eaten by a dog?" Qin Xiang's face had changed upon hearing this, while the doctor shook his head and said, "Qin Xiang, a few days ago I instructed that my diet should be light and warm, but not too light. I still need to supplement it. Currently, Miss Eyre's poison has been detoxified, but her physical condition is extremely weak. Next, I must pay attention to my diet. I will write a few prescriptions for you to go to the pharmacy and bring them back for Miss Eyre to stew chicken soup or bone soup." Qin Xiang suppressed his anger and said, "Thank you, doctor." Qin Wanyou also thanked the doctor. After the doctor left, Qin Xiang kicked Xiao Ping. Chapter 7. Thousand-Year Ginseng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Xiaoping fell to the ground, he immediately got up and knelt down. "Please spare your life, Xiangye, please spare your life," he said. Qin Xiang looked at them coldly and said, "What's going on? Are you greedy for Mrs. Food?" The maids knelt down and shook their heads one after another. "There are no maidservants. Xiangye is aware, Xiangye is aware." Qin Xiang pointed at the small screen and said, "What exactly is going on?" The small screen paused for a moment and said, "Yes, it was prepared by Aunt Lee in the kitchen. She said that this food was specially prepared for Miss Eyre and was ordered by Madam." A bunch of nonsense. Is our Prime Minister's mansion unable to open the pot? Miss Tang can't even afford meat, and the servants are all big and round. Qin Xiang was so angry that the corners of his mouth trembled. Steward, please go to the cafeteria immediately in order to prepare meals for Miss Eyre. Follow the doctor's instructions and warn those who don't have long eyes. Yes. The butler quickly walked to the dining room. Qin Xiang spoke again, someone, take these lazy and incompetent people down and deal them 10 major blows each. If you don't serve your master again next time, get out of the Prime Minister's mansion. One operation, Qin Wanyou softly called out, Father, pretending to demand affection. But Qin Xiang raised his hand to stop it and said, I have been busy with my father's official duties these days and have no time to take care of you. You have been wronged. If this happens again in the future, I must send someone to inform my father. Please rest well, and I will definitely let your mother take good care of you. Qin Wanyou leaned down slightly and lowered her head. Thank you, father, Wanyou is fine. She said weakly. Qin Xiang looked at Qin Wanyou and said, You rest well. As a father, I have something else to do. I'll come see you tomorrow. After speaking with great strides, one could tell from their back that they were quite angry. Qin Wanyou lightly sipped her teacup, listened to the screams outside, and then slowly lay back in bed. And Qin Xiang left Qin Wanyou's Qinzhou courtyard and went directly to the main courtyard where the Li family lived. With a loud bang, Master. Li was about to bow to Qin Xiang when he slapped him and fell to the ground, looking at him in surprise. You stupid woman. Qin Xiang pointed at Li Shi, speechless with anger. I don't know what I've done, Xiangye treated me like this. Li covered her face and questioned Qin Xiang. Qin Xiang glared askance at Li Shi and said, I don't know what's going on. Did you ask someone to do this for yours food? If there were rumors that the right Prime Minister's mansion mistreated children and abused patients, would the Prime Minister's face still be fine? Do you think the right Prime Minister's wife is sitting too high? What a fool. Li's eyes flickered slightly upon hearing this, Xiangye, I. Qin Xiang interrupted, today is the first day of summer, a new month. Mingyu and Mingzhu need to obtain spiritual power from Qin Wanyou. What have you done? Now that Qin Wanyou is weak and powerless, how can you transmit spiritual power? Li felt a little flustered at this moment and said, Xiangye, I just saw Mingzhu scared by her that day. It's just a small punishment. I didn't expect it to. In the future, please take good care of Qin Wanyou's diet. If it affects the acquisition of spiritual power, don't even want the position of lady right, Qin Xiang finished speaking and left directly. As Li watched Qin Xiang leave, she knew without hesitation that she must have gone to that slut's place again. She grabbed the handkerchief on her hand tightly and said, Qin Wanyou. After I get your spiritual spell, you wait for me. Today's lunch, Qin Wanyou looked very happy and ate happily. With a loud bang, let's withdraw. The Empress Dowager put down the spoon and waved to have the food on the table removed. Wu Mama stepped forward to serve and spoke anxiously, Madam, why don't you use it a bit? If you can't eat it, let's all withdraw. The Empress Dowager closed her eyes and helped Grandma Wu's hand leave her seat and walk towards the dormitory. Did the Emperor really send that 1,000-year-old ginseng plant to the regent's mansion? Wu Mama lowered her head and responded, according to the report from the servant, there is indeed this matter. He's really willing. Wu Mama dared not respond. The Empress Dowager continued to mutter to herself, yes, after all, it was the regent Prince Murongcheng who personally taught and assisted him in securing the throne, guarding the great Yan River and mountains for him. If he did not wholeheartedly care for the regent prince, he would not be criticized by the civil and military people of the Manchu dynasty for being ungrateful. Wu Mama continued to be mute. After sitting down, the Empress Dowager asked again, did none of our people really survive last night? Wu Mama shook her head and said, I haven't received any news of anyone alive returning yet. The Empress Dowager thought of last night, it's almost 3 shifts now, why hasn't anyone returned to report the situation? Are you sure everyone has been arranged? Wu Mama comforted and said, Madam, everyone has already been arranged, but the regent's mansion is not an ordinary prince's mansion. There are many experts, and it is as solid as gold and soup. Let him be as skilled as a cloud, let the regent's mansion become history this time. That little beast should not have come into this world, said the Empress Dowager viciously. With a thud, there was a sound coming from outside the yard, and Grandma Wu immediately went out to check. A man in black was lying in the yard, and Wu Mama approached to investigate. At this moment, the man in black spoke intermittently, we. Before the words were finished, people were completely deflated. After confirming that the person was gone, Wu Mama asked someone to handle it and went in to tell the Empress Dowager. After listening, the Empress Dowager pondered for a moment and said, it seems that our people have been completely wiped out. Then he smashed the cup in his hand directly onto the ground, it's really useless. After recalling, the Empress Dowager asked again, is there anyone else besides the person who came back last night? Grandma Wu lowered her head and remained silent, what a bunch of trash. The Empress Dowager picked up her teacup and took a sip. Is there any news from the Prince Li's side coming back? Wu Mama quickly responded, Your Highness Li Wang has sent you something again to relieve your stress. It's already on the way and will arrive in 2 days. Well, it's better for my son to be filial and rest. The Empress Dowager supported Wu Mama's arm and walked towards the bedside. Crown Prince, you can get up now and leave. Mo Bei spoke out as a reminder. Murong Xiao opened his eyes and lifted the blanket. Did the people from last night find out who was behind them? According to General Chang's review, the Empress Dowager's side is the main envoy, and there should be people with a prince mixed in between. However, it is not clear which prince it is. Currently, many of the captured soldiers are dead, and no useful information can be obtained. General Chang said that there were shadows of the former Emperor Yanling's army among the attackers. Mashi replied. This old witch actually attacked the regent's mansion with the Yanling army left by the late emperor. What does she want to do? Gu Siyuan couldn't help but curse. No, she should have trained assassins with people from Yanling's army. She still doesn't dare to openly let Yanling's army attack the palace. Murong Xiao said with a disdainful look in his eyes, and then looked at Gu Siyuan. Aren't you taking good care of your injuries at home? Will the Grand Princess allow you to leave the palace? It's been rumored outside that you're unconscious. When my mother heard about your situation, she wanted to come in person, but 2 days ago she caught a cold and felt unwell. So I volunteered to visit. Gu Siyuan flipped through the consolation gifts sent by the court minister and said, my injury is not serious either. At this moment, a Luotian doctor hurriedly came in from outside and said, I heard that 1,000-year-old ginseng has been sent to the palace. Where is it? Where is it? Mashi picked up a box and said, it should be the one sent by the crown prince. Dr. Luo immediately grabbed the box and opened it. The people inside immediately smelled a unique aroma of ginseng, and a complete ginseng plant was displayed in front of everyone. Dr. Luo picked up the ginseng and said, my goodness, it's really 1,000-year-old ginseng. Then immediately put it back in place and closed the box. At this moment, Murong Xiao said to Luo Shini, Lao Luo, Wang Mama will set off tomorrow to return to Chuyu. Can you make this ginseng plant into a life-saving pill for emergencies? Finally, Murong Xiao agreed to Wang Mama's request, but let Mo Dong accompany her. But this is from the emperor. Mo Bei disagrees. Dr. Luo hesitated and wanted to speak more. Murong Xiao looked at them and said, Grandma hasn't returned to Chuyu for a long time. The danger of going here is unknown, but it will definitely not go smoothly. Please help me, Mr. Luo. Dr. Luo sighed and went out with ginseng. Chapter 8. Loss of spiritual power and skill. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Finally, Dr. Luo made 10 pills from Millennium Ginseng, and Murong Xiao gave half of them to Grandma and Mo Dong as a precaution. After Crown Prince Murong Hao returned to the palace, he reported to the emperor. As soon as he entered the imperial study, Emperor Murong Qi hurriedly asked, "How is Murong Xiao doing?" The crown prince's face was serious and heavy. "Father, when the courtiers visited, Uncle Xiao Wang was in a coma, and now it is also his monthly sleeping time. The divine doctor said that he is in a state of impatience, and it is uncertain whether he will wake up in 5 days." The emperor was angry and dropped his teacup again. Bullying people is too much. During this time, you can take the imperial guards, the young minister of Dali Temple, and the people from the Ministry of Justice to protect the regent's mansion outside, and there should be no mistakes. If the divine doctor needs any medicinal herbs, feel free to come to the palace to collect them. The crown prince received orders and said, "Yes, my son obeys." 2 days later, the right prime minister's mansion Qin Wanyou rested well for 2 days, and today his good big brother finally appeared. "Wanyou, how are you doing? Big brother has been busy with his studies these days and doesn't have time to come and see you. I'm really sorry, please forgive me. I don't have anything big to worry about, big brother." Qin Wanyou was very sensible. Qin Mingyu didn't actually have any concern in his heart, he just spoke it out and knew that Qin Wanyou wouldn't have any complaints. At this moment, Qin Mingzhu, Qin Madam, and 2 younger brothers also came together. Qin Mingzhu came in first and said, "Is your sister feeling better? A few days ago, I went to my uncle's house to visit my grandfather. This is a gift from my grandfather, Jinyu, and I to you. They also care about you very much." Qin Wanyou smiled inwardly, "Does this care for you or not?" "Thank you, sister, cousin, and grandfather," he said with a flattered expression on his face. "Madam." Xiao Ping called out from outside. Seeing the person coming, Qin Wanyou also shouted, "Mother." The tone is as plain and heartless as usual. Li stepped forward and took Qin Wanyou's hand. "How is your body? Is there anything else that's serious?" "It was my mother's negligence a few days ago that caused you to suffer." Qin Wanyou also looked seriously at the caring woman in front of her, not missing a hint of expression. If it weren't for all the things in her past life, it was really hard to imagine what kind of cold-blooded, vicious this face was wrapped around. "It's much better, thank you for your mother's concern." Qin Er, second sister, 2 good younger brothers also came to greet Qin Shanyu. It seems that he has never called himself sister or name before, and has always called himself Qin Er. It's really ridiculous to think of it. Before the age of 6, I didn't even have a name. Every time a guest came to visit or Qin Mingzhu called friends to play at home, I would call myself Qin Er. When my mother introduced me to others, she would also call me Qin Er. The name Qin Wanyou was chosen by herself. At the age of 6, there was a time when I was practicing alone in the forest behind the mountain and almost went crazy, encountered an old grandfather who raised his hand to help him overcome difficulties and guided him to practice step by step, not rashly, otherwise the consequences of becoming possessed by the devil would be unimaginable. After thanking the old man and feeling comfortable, he took a test flight in front of him. After seeing him, the old man praised him repeatedly, his movements were light, like ghosts, and he was a good cultivator. After seeing that the old man was fine, he also left, and Qin Wanyou never saw him again. On Qin Mingzhu's 8th birthday, a young man broke into his yard while he was practicing. When the young man saw him, his eyes froze. I have never seen such a handsome young man before, and as a result, I missed him for life. When he asked his name, he didn't say it was Qin Er, but instead remembered the words of his grandfather and told the boy, "Qin Wanyou, my name is Qin Wanyou." From then on, there was a name called Qin Wanyou. Not long after, the young man came to his house and told himself that he was engaged to him. I only realized at that time that he was the eldest prince, and he often came to care for me. I also fell into the love network and love he had woven, hoping to grow up quickly and leave the cage of this prime minister's mansion. Since then, Qin Mingzhu has often had a strange attitude towards herself, while Qin's father and mother have allowed her to tolerate it generously. Looking back, I was truly naive and foolish in my past life. As expected, I had little knowledge and was easily led by others. Now, thinking about it, the crown prince of the regent's mansion is countless times more beautiful than the grand prince, and he still needs to go out and see more. Wanyou, what's wrong with you? Qin Mingyu looked at Qin Wanyou with a slightly different expression in his eyes. Qin Wanyou smiled and said, "It's okay, it's just a bit touching. Come and see me." A few people didn't feel strange when they heard this. I am mocking Qin Wanyou's foolishness in my heart. Not long after, Qin Xiang also came and the whole family had a reunion dinner together. After a meal, a cup of tea rises above the willow branches on the moon. The family arrived at Qin Wanyou's practice room. Qin Mingyu and Qin Mingzhu sat in their positions, and Qin Wanyou also sat in the back. He raised his hands and crossed his palms, preparing to activate his spiritual power. But, Qin Wanyou urged several times, but was unable to exert her spiritual power. Qin Wanyou suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Qin Xiang in terror. "Father, my spiritual power is gone." "What?" Qin Xiang and the people present widened their eyes and said, "How could it be?" "Really, my internal strength is gone." Qin Wanyou looked at her hands. Qin Mingyu immediately approached and grabbed Qin Wanyou's wrist to investigate. "Really? There's no spiritual power left. When did this happen?" Qin Xiang asked Qin Wanyou. Qin Wanyou looked at her hand with an expression of not calming down. She shook her head and said, I don't know. I was poisoned a few days ago and forced out some poison. I haven't used any spiritual power since then, and my internal power has been completely lost. I thought the poison had been detoxified, my body has recovered, and my internal power will slowly recover. So I've been resting in bed these days, but now. Still. Qin Xiang looked at Qin Wanyou shaking her head in disbelief and didn't doubt anything. Tomorrow, please invite the imperial physician to the palace to take a look. Everyone should go back and rest well first. After saying this, he left the practice room and the Qingzhou Academy. Qin Shanyu wanted to say something else, but was stopped by Qin Mingyu and said to Qin Wanyou, Wanyou, please rest well first. Maybe it's because your body hasn't recovered yet. Then he pulled away his younger brothers and sisters, leaving Qin Wanyou alone. Qin Wanyou still lowered her head and looked at her hands. After everyone left, she tried several times to activate her spiritual power, but still couldn't emit any spiritual power. The hidden spirit grass was indeed powerful. After a burning incense stick, Qin Wanyou finally left the practice room. And Qin Xiang returned to his study and called Qin Mingzhu, what poison did you give Wanyou that day? Speaking of what happened that day, Qin Mingzhu was still a bit scared. What I ordered was hallucinogenic medicine, it won't kill anyone. Who did the soul-chasing powder come from? Tell me about the situation that day and who was present. Qin Xiang asked again. Qin Mingzhu dared not conceal it. That day, the eldest prince sent a pearl hairpin to Qin Wanyou. Jingyu and I couldn't see Qin Wanyou so happy, so we wanted her to make a fool of herself. So we added hallucinogenic drugs to her tea. After drinking it, she lost consciousness and stumbled into a rockery, falling to the ground. Then. It seemed like we were out of breath. We were all scared, so we called you a doctor. You saw what happened later. Is there anyone else that day? Qin Xiang looked at Qin Mingzhu. That day we had maids, Manzhu, and the rain was also here, Qin Mingzhu recalled. Got it, you go back first. Qin Xiang waved his hand and asked Qin Mingzhu to leave. After Qin Mingzhu left, a black shadow flashed into the study. Chapter 9. Unable to restore. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Qin Xiang spoke up. What's her reaction? Black Shadow clenched her fists and reported, after everyone left, Miss Air tried to use her spiritual power, but she still couldn't use any spiritual power. After trying a stick of incense, she left feeling lost and returned to her room. Go down. Qin Xiang sat on the chair and didn't know what he was thinking. The next day, Qin Xiang brought the imperial physician from the palace to check Qin Wanyou's pulse. After the imperial physician finished his pulse, Qin Xiang hurriedly asked, Imperial physician, how is my daughter's body? Why is she losing all her spiritual and internal strength? The imperial physician touched his beard and asked, It seems that Miss Air's body was severely injured a while ago. Although she is no longer seriously affected, her body is somewhat weak and needs to be replenished appropriately. As for the recovery of spiritual and internal strength, why was Miss Air injured? Qin Xiang truthfully reported, due to poisoning, I was hit by soul-chasing powder and hallucinogenic medicine. Soul-chasing powder. The imperial physician was startled. This is a deadly poison. Qin nodded. The imperial physician once again felt Qin Wanyou's pulse and said, It seems that Miss Air was forced out of her spiritual power and saved her life. It should be because the toxicity was too domineering, damaging Miss Air's physical foundation and causing her spiritual power to be completely lost, making it impossible to continue practicing. Qin Xiang nervously asked the imperial physician, Is there any way for the imperial physician to recover? The imperial physician shook his head and said, This old man is powerless. Qin Xiang remained silent for a moment before finally thanking the imperial physician, Please help protect the situation of the young woman and not pass it on to others. The imperial physician nodded and said, I must keep my mouth shut. Please rest assured, Xiangye. Qin Wanyou still sat absent-mindedly on the bed, lacking any energy. Qin Xiang looked at Qin Wanyou, sighed, and instructed Xiaoping, Take good care of Miss Air, let Miss Air rest well. After leaving, my face immediately changed. During dinner time, 2 Playboy boys came back from fighting chickens and touching dogs outside. They heard a report from a servant that their father was not eating together tonight, so they went to their mother's yard to have dinner. As soon as they entered, they saw Qin Mingzhu's face red with slap marks. A breathless opening, Sister, what's going on your face? Who bullied you? Tell us, we will definitely avenge you. Qin Mingzhu remained silent. Whenever she mentioned the injury on her face, she thought of her father calling her to the study this afternoon. As soon as I entered the door, my father slapped me and then told me to roll away, tears streaming down my face. It's not because of Qin Wanyou, your father is angry with your sister because Qin Wanyou lost his spiritual power, Li said, feeling heartbroken after finishing their meal. The 2 of them arrived at Qin Wanyou's yard. Coincidentally, Qin Wanyou also just finished her meal. As soon as Qin Shanyu entered the yard, he started shouting and yelling. It was a cliché story from before. What happened? You stole my spiritual power, my cultivation ability, my nutrition, and weakened my body. Now, because of your loss of spiritual power, you have beaten my elder sister and so on. Qin Wanyou has also been suppressing herself for the past 2 days. As she approached, she gave a cold eye and shouted loudly, Shut up. Did I really take you away? Do I want to lose all my spiritual power? Didn't you poison me, causing my foundation to be damaged and I can't continue practicing? If you don't go find the person who poisoned me, blame me for being a victim. Get out of here. Get out. Get out. The 2 were taken aback by Qin Wanyou's roar and were also frightened by Qin Wanyou's gaze, unable to speak. After Qin Wanyou finished roaring, she felt a little relieved, but her face remained cold. She waved the cups and chopsticks on the table, making a crackling sound that shattered the ground. Then she turned around and closed the door to her boudoir. The two brothers have never seen Qin Wanyou like this before, and they are a bit scared. They exchanged a glance at each other. Isn't this person going crazy? The two of them actually have little ability. They are both the second-generation ancestors who bully the weak and fear the hard. When they saw Qin Wanyou go berserk, they dared not speak up. Then the two quickly ran to report to their mother. Qin Wanyou leaned against the back of the door. Everyone should know that I have lost all my skills this time. Qin, I see how you can use my reputation to recruit experts, talented people, and extraordinary talents, and how to retain those demons and monsters. After listening to the sound of the two leaving, Qin Wanyou took out the Spirit Moon Mind technique and opened it. The mind technique and cultivation moves written on it can only be seen by herself. Except for the 4 words, Spirit Moon Mind technique, no one else can see the specific content written on it. They asked Qin Wanyou to copy the above content for them, but they still couldn't practice. They also deceived their Qin ancestors into pouring spiritual power into it in order to protect their mental health, saying that only descendants of the Qin family who possess spiritual power can see the specific information above for cultivation. It's really ridiculous to think of it. In my past life, I was solely focused on cultivation and did not study the fabric of writing this mental technique well. I just looked at the information on it for cultivation. Now Qin Wanyou is carefully examining this cloth, caressing it carefully. The texture is very different, and every part is carefully observed. The more she looks, the more frightened she becomes. This is a bit like a baby's coat, with the shoulders cut off. It looks like a mountain when opened, but it doesn't look right. Qin Wanyou tried to cut it with scissors, but apart from the 2 layers of fabric on the outside, the inside couldn't be cut to pieces. Cut off some outer fabric again. At first glance, this is actually a golden soft hedgehog armor inside, which is impervious to knives and guns. If I guess correctly, this should be the swaddling clothes I wore when I was a child. Qin Wanyou couldn't help but speculate. Biological parents should love themselves very much, right? Qin Wanyou's eyes suddenly became moist, and tears had not flowed for a long time. The next day, Qin Xiang came over to scold Qin Wanyou because of last night's incident. But looking at Qin Wanyou's swollen and red eyes, I believe she knew she was wrong and couldn't continue scolding. After a few words, she left. During lunch break, Qin Wanyou went out for a trip. At night, I knocked out my maid again and arrived at the courtyard of Yulingfang in the west of the city. Seeing that Feng Ling has already returned, and also brought someone back. Chapter 10. Which wealthy family do you like? You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Qin Wanyou arrived at the yard, she saw the 2 of them busy tidying up. As soon as Feng Ling saw Qin Wanyou, she quickly approached and greeted him, Mississippi I. Come on in, Qin Wanyou said and walked into the room. After entering the room, Feng Ling immediately knelt down and said, Miss, please forgive me. I took Li Bo home without Mrs. consent. What kind of person is he? Qin Wanyou asked, as if she had never seen this person in her past life until Feng Ling's tragic death. Feng Ling immediately replied, he was injured and fell in our village before. He was saved by my father and mother. Later, in order not to affect our family and be pointed out by others, he went to the neighboring village to open an iron shop and help repair tools for the people in the village and nearby villages. A while ago, he heard that there was something wrong with my family and kept asking people about us. A few days ago, he planned to sue my step-grandmother's family, but his house and shop were also smashed because of it. His legs and feet were inconvenient to walk due to his old injury, and there was no one to take care of him at home. I buried him and my mother planned to say hello to him and come back. Seeing him like this, I made the decision to bring him back. After listening to Feng Ling's words, Qin Wanyou pondered for a moment and said, is anyone reliable? Feng Ling kept nodding, he is very kind and has been secretly helping us, letting my father and mother know the true face of that old lady. After my father died, he also took care of and helped us a lot, but I didn't expect that the old lady and those beasts had such a cruel heart. Qin Wanyou suddenly asked, did he teach you your lightness skills? Lightness skill? No, lightness skill was something I accidentally broke into an old man's house when I was a child, chopping firewood in the mountains. Later, I helped the old man work for a few days and he taught him, but after teaching him for a few days, the old man died. Feng Ling answered truthfully, not wondering why Qin Wanyou knew she knew lightness skill. Qin Wanyou nodded and said, I don't mean to doubt him, I'm just afraid you'll be deceived. Remember, don't believe in men's sweet words, especially those of good-looking men. 1 second of sweet words, the next second may just stab you in the heart. Feng Ling nodded heavily and said, I understand. Qin Wanyou emphasized again, remember, since ancient times, 10,000 men cannot be relied on. It's better to earn millions of gold on your own. Only when you have control over money and power can gold be exchanged for your husband at any time. I must keep it in mind that men are unreliable, and I will work hard to earn money. In the future, I will buy whatever I want. Feng Ling replied with certainty. Then he took out a piece of animal skin or something like that and said, Miss, this was taken back from the old man's grave by the maid's mother before she died. What's the use of this? Qin Wanyou took a look and said, this is a mnemonic for spiritual power mind techniques, but I don't need it. You can take it and practice it yourself. After speaking, I carefully looked and touched. Is this? After you write down and memorize the formula above, you should hide this thing immediately, and don't disclose it to anyone to avoid killing yourself. Qin Wanyou sealed it with holy power. Feng Ling looked at the solemn Qin Wanyou and immediately responded, yes. Take it with a serious expression. The mental skills above are okay, but the martial arts moves are not suitable for you to practice. You can practice mental skills, and I will help you find the martial arts that are suitable for you to practice. Qin Wanyou added a reminder to Feng Ling. Can you do needlework? Qin Wanyou asked again. Yes, my mother's needlework is very good, and my servant's needlework is also good, Feng Ling replied. Then Qin Wanyou gave Feng Ling 2 pieces of cloth, take them as soon as possible and help me make them exactly like this one. Feng Ling took it and flipped through it, okay, this will take 2 days. Okay, first copy the mind technique and hide it. I'll come and retrieve it in a few days, Qin Wanyou said before leaving the room and walking towards the old man. May I know your distinguished name? Li, who was limp, bowed to Qin Wanyou and said, Goodbye, Mississippi. I am a commoner in Xiamen, not a big name. Everyone calls me Li, who is limp. I am here to thank Miss for her great kindness on behalf of the deceased Lu family couple. Since it's better to tell the truth, Qin Wanyou didn't force herself. Since you're here, let's live a good life. I hope you don't do anything to harm everyone. Lim Ling Li assured Qin Wanyou, Miss, rest assured that I will never harm or betray anyone. Qin Wanyou didn't say much and left here to return to the right Prime Minister's mansion. The next day, Gu Siyuan arrived at the regent's mansion early in the morning. Uncle Xiao Wang, I've searched most of Yendu city and haven't heard of any girl who suddenly lost her spiritual power. Do you think that person has already left Yendu? Murong Xiao looked at the book and didn't want to speak. Ma Shi spoke up and said, Young Master Gu, maybe it's not for the girl to use it herself, maybe it's for the children in the family to avoid exposing their abilities too early in being targeted. Gu Siyuan looked up and rubbed his chin for a moment, then nodded. It's really possible. Next, the topic changed, Uncle Xiao Wang, when will you announce your awakening to the public? Soon, the palace will hold a banquet to select concubines for the crown prince and the princes. If you don't wake up again, the old witch in the palace may also give you a wedding to celebrate. Everyone in the room looked at Murong Xiao together. Murong Xiao remained calm as he read the book. Don't worry, let's take a look in a few days. Have you found any news from the Ministry of Justice? Mo Nan replied, Master, the Ministry of Justice will definitely not reveal the mastermind behind the scenes. The emperor also took this opportunity to install his own people besides many people from the Empress Dowager's side. As expected, Murong Xiao threw the book onto the table and said, "Arrange our people to enter the military department as soon as possible, and be careful with Yan Lingjuan's side as well." The servant replied, "Yes." Murong Xiao stared steadily at half of the crystal swallow in his hand, lost in thought. This is the token of Yan Lingjun from the regent's mansion. Back then, before his death, the late emperor divided the Yanling army into 3 parts and handed over 1/3 to the young emperor Murong Qi, 1/3 will be handed over to Regent Murong City, 1/3 of it was actually handed over to the Empress Dowager of the past, who is now the Empress Dowager, which surprised everyone at that time. 11 years ago, the Jiang dynasty and the Chu Yu state jointly besieged the Dian dynasty. The emperor threatened with the life of the Empress Dowager's son, and only then did the Empress Dowager agree to hand over the Yanling army in her hands. The Yanling army in the hands of the 3 of them once again resisted the invasion of the enemy country. Finally, the regent returned and led the Yanling army to a great defeat against the coalition forces of the 2 countries, but he himself died in battle, with only a small portion of the Yanling army surviving. The Yan Lingjun who returned to the city after the war belonged to the Empress Dowager and had already been taken away by her people. But the emperor handed over the remaining majority of Yan Ling's army to Murong Xiao, partly because the great Yan was protected by the regent and his wife, and Murong Xiao was their only heir, so of course, they had to protect it well. One reason is that most of the courtiers and generals in the court also proposed to hand over Yan Ling's army to Prince Murong, mainly to protect Murong Xiao. So now most of the Yanling army is under the command of Murong Xiao. Of course, in recent years, the Yan Emperor has not mistreated Murong Xiao, and has also earnestly sought the guidance of the Grand Master, even spoiling this little cousin. The Great War between the 3 kingdoms caused great suffering to all the people. After the end of the war, there was nothing to be done, and for the past decade, everyone was resting and developing independently. But what everyone didn't expect was that the Empress Dowager had kept a portion of the Yan Lingjun in her hands and didn't hand it over to the battlefield. Back then, she had considered usurping power, but neither the civil nor military officials of the Manchu dynasty agreed. If another coup occurred, Dian would be divided up, and it also depends on whether the Yan Lingjun who returned from the battlefield agrees or not. After enduring for so many years, I finally can't help it anymore. Uncle, have you ever seen a daughter from a certain family? I'll reveal it to Uncle Emperor, otherwise they'll give you some mixed-up love stories. Gu Xiyuan interrupted Murong Xiao's contemplation. Before Murong Xiao could react,